I ended up being in a really good position to take time off, literally because I just organized my money up front and I accidentally set myself up for success.
Oh, wake up, rethink the status quo. When you get your money right, then you're the one who runs your life. Come build a wealthy spirit with Sammie and Michelle.
I have to be honest with you, Michelle.
Okay.
I haven't been tracking my spending. Yes, I know. You all know me as the track your spending queen. I had a Instagram video about this. And yes, I was obsessed with tracking my spending. I knew how much I spent every year. I knew how much I spent in every single category every year for the past 3 years. But I'll be honest, for the past year, I have not been tracking my spending.
A year?
A year.
Oh my gosh, Sammie.
But you know what? It's okay. It's actually okay. Because yes, tracking my spending gets me into the fine-tuned nitty-gritty detail. But 90% of what needs to happen to ensure that I am saving and I am investing happens before I even lift a finger. And that's because my finances are organized.
Sammie, that is such a good point. And that's why I'm so excited about our topic today. You can easily set it up so that when you get your paycheck on payday and you're looking at your account, you can be excited. You don't have to think, oh, I have to do this and I have to move this to my 401k and I need to move some money into my savings. And do I have enough money for my emergency fund yet? No. We are here to tell you that there is a way that you can organize it. Get your systems right so that you don't even have to worry about it. I love what you said. 90% of it comes from the initial setup, which is a little bit of uplift, but then you don't even have to think about it again. So I'm so excited to talk about this today, Sammie.
Let's get into it.
But first, Sammie, I'm really excited to talk about Daily Harvest.
Me too. I love Daily Harvest. And I'll be honest, Michelle and I had to do a real reflection at our lives after that whole vulnerability episode and the McDonald's incident.
Yes, we were like, why were we even at McDonald's with these people who were drinking and smoking in their car?
And driving.
Yes, apparently we are in the same category of people who get excited about buy one, get one deals at McDonald's. And the truth is that we have a lot of difficulty getting certain vegetables, getting organic food, honestly, even just making time for cooking. Like we're in, if not a food desert, we are the oasis in a food desert.
We are in a desert and we are in an actual food desert. Sometimes they don't have ginger at the grocery store. And if you want some, you're going to have to drive 2 hours.
Isn't that crazy?
If that's not a food desert, I don't know what it is.
I'm sure somebody out there is like, yeah, ginger is my problem. This is actually a real issue for us. So we decided that we wanted to find an alternative where we could get our fruits and vegetables. We would get whole foods, not processed. We wanted something good. And so we tested different food options and we've been using Daily Harvest and we love it. We get smoothies from there that are filled with banana and spinach and kale and apples. And yes, we do organize them by sugar so that we get a nice low sugar smoothie. And it's been a game changer for us. We've been loving it.
Yes. What I especially love, Michelle, is how many different ingredients we can get with Daily Harvest. One of my favorite smoothies is the cold brew and cacao. It has coconut, it has cold brew, it has cacao, it has lion's mane, it has ashwagandha.
Lion's mane and Lion's mane and ash. How come I can't say this?
Ash, like Ashwarya.
I've said it before. Ashwan. Oh my God. Okay. You know what we're talking about. I was going to say that it's the food of our people, but clearly I'm struggling.
Lion's mane, to be clear, is fungus. But the point is, Michelle and I would never seek out these foods. And we want diversity in our diet. We want that bacterial flora that's just going to be getting all different kinds of foods, which is hard to do where we live. And that's why we love Daily Harvest.
Yes. So let's eat better together. You can save up to $65 off your first Daily Harvest box if you use our code in the show notes.
Now back to today's topic about organizing your money.
Organize your money, organize your life.
I actually got into this money organization years ago, before I even heard about FIRE. That's right, before I even heard about financial independence and retire early, somebody had told me a little something about organizing your money.
What was this, in the crib?
I believe we were actually hosting an Earth Day party in San Francisco in 2017.
We had an Earth Day party?
Yeah, I do distinctly remember drawing globes on my eyelids.
Okay, well, good, yeah.
It was just like a little gathering.
Good for us.
And I remember we were all standing around the island and talking. Beautiful sunny day in San Francisco. And we were talking about money, and I disclosed that I did not know very much about money, and I wasn't going to save it for the grave. I was not saving it for my golden casket. And one of our fine friends, who probably could see that I was in need of dire help, mentioned the book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi.
Oh, Ramit Sethi of How to Get Rich Netflix fame?
He has blown up since then, and he was probably already big then.
He was already big, but in the last couple of months since his Netflix special has come out, I've literally seen him everywhere.
Me too. And I'm so happy for him because he has great advice. Mina may have mentioned that book, Passerby, but I read the book and I changed my life. So thank you, Mina, if you're listening to this podcast. You changed my life.
I love that, Sammie. And that's exactly why for this episode, we went through and we pulled his piece, Sub-Savings Accounts, Managing How to Set Up and Benefits. Because not only did he inspire so much of how we have organized our own checking and savings accounts, but we just thought it really weaves in well with what we're talking about today. And it's crazy to think that it's been, that was like 2017. It's been years. And the cool thing is now we can actually talk about how those changes has affected us years later. So thank you, Mina, and thank you, Ramit.
Mm-hmm. Step 1 in getting your money in order. It's all about automation. And if you're one of our Michigan friends, you might be familiar with automation. We're talking Motown, we're talking assembly line, and that is what we need to be doing with our money as well.
I'm not gonna lie, I think you're thinking about automobile. But I love where your head is at. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It's not.
You're still right. But much like the auto industry, we are going to automate and create a system. I'm going to drop that metaphor.
A paycheck assembly line of sorts.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
What we're saying is automate your money. And what we mean by that, what we have done is when our paycheck comes in, it goes to very specific places. Our 401k, our HSA, into different places even within our savings accounts and checking accounts. And if you could just make it so that before that paycheck even hits your little fingers, it's divided into the right places, you're already doing really well for yourself.
And how much can you divide it? You can divide it all day, depending on your workplace. For me, some of my paycheck goes into my 401k. We at my workplace actually also have an account called a 457, which you may have if you work at a nonprofit. The 457 is actually a pre-tax account where you can put your money in and invest it, and it doesn't even appear on your W-2. It's actually saved as future income. So when you leave that job, you can then take money out from that account and then kind of delay the payment almost. It's bomb.com because it reduces your tax burden today, and you can take it out like during your sabbatical year when you're not going to be spending a lot of money, so you're not going to get taxed a ton anyway. My most favorite account right now.
Yes, Sammie, I love that point. The first thing that you can automate when you get your paycheck is your tax advantage accounts. That's exactly what these are. Whether it's pre-tax, post-tax, there are different places where you can stick your money. And one of the best things about this is that if you have a little bit of extra money when you are getting paid, but you put it somewhere before you even know it exists, you can start saving money without even having to feel that loss of that like chunk of your paycheck going out into, say, your 401k.
And then here's the next part that gets very exciting. Then you can take the rest of the money that you would just normally put into whatever checking account, and you can divide it amongst multiple accounts.
And Sammie, to clarify, you're saying have your company do that for you.
Exactly. You don't have to divide it up once it comes to you in your paycheck. You can have your company automatically put direct deposits into multiple accounts so that way your money is getting organized from day one.
You know, Sammie, I've never done this when I was working for a corporate company. What does that look like?
You never did this?
No.
I did not realize that. Okay, yeah. Well, at my workplace, it looks like this. I call up Mr. Allen. Not Mr. Allen of like, Mr. Allen, 25 for 25 shoes. Buy one, get one free. If you know what I mean. If you're from Michigan, you probably do. If you're anybody else, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
A lot of Michigan references this episode. But yes, not Mr. Allen of the shoe store fame.
Yes. I call up Alan of our payroll department. And I remember I actually had like an in-person meeting with him, as part of my orientation process. And I asked him, how many accounts can I put all my money in? And he's like, as many as you want. I'm like, wow, this is the kind of workplace I'm talking about. So I divided my paycheck after it goes into my tax advantage accounts into 4 different accounts. Some of them are savings accounts. Some of them are checkings accounts. And that way, my money is organized. I know what money is for spending, and the other money, I just don't even touch it.
And so the benefit of automating your money is that, once again, we want to make receiving your paycheck, allocating your funds to the proper places as easy as possible. And so that 6 months in, 7 months in, 2 years in, you're not even thinking about it again. When I was working at my first company, I was there for 5 years, and my mom bothered me for 6 months because I was lazy and didn't know how to set up my 401k. And she's like, you have to set up your 401k. You have to set up your 401k. Eventually I did it. It took literally 5 minutes, so don't be like me. And then soon after that, Sammie, after reading I Will Teach You to Be Rich, told me that I should max out my 401k. Before I was just doing enough to get a match. Instead, I turned it up to max it out. And then when I left 5 years later, I had this big, chunky 401k filled with money that I didn't even think about really for 4 or 5 years because I didn't have to. Before I ever even got my paycheck, money was just swept into those accounts. The crazy thing is, not only is my 401k this nice account that's just sitting there growing, waiting for me for when I retire, my match is 20% of the total amount, which is crazy because it was only a 4 to 6% match when I started. So to see how that's grown over the past few years is absolutely insane. And again, I didn't have to think about it.
So you might be wondering, what are all these savings accounts that we are talking about? And that is where Ramit shines. He recommends having sub-savings accounts, or you can think of them as buckets.
I heard a Gen Z woman refer to somebody as buckets recently. It means somebody who's like constantly shooting buckets, like basketball hoops, winning. And so I like it here because it's like buckets because you're like winning in your savings accounts.
I like it.
Thank you.
You are winning in your savings account. And it's also like a bucket, like an organized box where you would put one thing to separate it from another thing.
Equally fun.
Ramit has a bunch of different savings accounts that you can use, such as the Capital One 360 savings account. And the reason he chooses these savings accounts is because 1, they have no fees. So you don't have like a minimum balance, you don't have transfer fees, those kind of things. Important thing to watch for in your banks, especially if their name is Bank of America or Wells Fargo.
Okay, all right. This seems like a good time to remind everybody.
This is not financial advice.
This is not financial advice. This is an entertainment podcast only.
And the great thing about the Capital One savings accounts is you can make as many accounts as you want. For example, for me, I have an emergency fund. We recommend that everybody have an emergency fund. An emergency fund is that cushion that's going to prevent you from constantly messing up your finances for little things that keep happening here and there.
Yes. And if you want to learn more about emergency funds, we actually have a whole episode on it that I will share in our show notes.
In addition to my emergency fund sub-savings account, I also have a sub-savings account for a new car. And I just want everybody to know, including my car. I am not intending on getting a new car. I do not want to get a new car. I would be very happy driving the same beautiful car for the rest of the days. But just in case something happens to my car, like if we were at that McDonald's and that woman who was driving and drinking and ordering McDonald's at the same time accidentally lifted her foot off the brake and she hit my car, I could just buy a new car with peace of mind.
You know, the thing is, I think that anybody listening to this podcast knows why you have a backup account for a new car. But you know what, Sammie? We got a new windshield for you. We got a new bottom of your car. You don't have to zip tie it anymore. So I think you are in a good place. I'm manifesting a long life for your Honda Fit.
I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. In addition to my new car sub-savings account, I have a house down payment sub-savings account. I made this previously, and I don't necessarily plan on using it, but it's a good thing to have just in case housing prices drop and I feel like I need to buy a house or something like that. And then I also have a spending savings account, which is money saved up to use to pay my credit card off.
Those are great buckets, Sammie.
And the great thing is my paycheck automatically goes and fills each of these sub-savings accounts without me having to do anything.
So it seems like you, step one, automated your money to go to not only your tax advantage accounts, but also these 3 different savings accounts within your greater savings account at your bank.
Correctamungo.
And you can create a bucket for anything. Let's say you are planning to have a baby, or you are going even through something like, say, IVF, or you want to freeze your eggs, or non-baby related things. You want to buy a new car. You want a down payment for your apartment. You're going to move cities. For me, I have started doing contract work. So I'm listening to us chat today, and I'm thinking I need to create a sub-savings account for all the taxes I need to pay next year.
Ooh, good one.
Yes. I am not always great about doing sub-savings accounts, and I'm going to be honest, I do think it makes it actually more challenging psychologically. It seemed fine, but actually when I was getting more familiar with personal finances, I was like, wait, I have a huge chunk of money in my savings account that I have no plan for. And so I actually started to reallocate that money into different places because I was just putting it into one spot and I wasn't really thinking about how I could be more intentional about saving money.
You mentioned something that I thought was really interesting, and one thing I really liked about creating sub-savings accounts, that is that I created a goal amount for each sub-savings account. For example, for my car, I decided that one I ultimately wanted to have $15,000. So I can then take $15,000 and divide it by 24 months or 36 months. And then I can see how much money I would need to put in there to reach that goal in 2 years or 3 years or however long I want to reach that goal.
Ooh, Sammie, actually, that's a really important point. Because let's say you're on the other side of this, where you have been saving money and you have a goal amount that you are about to hit. Something I've noticed within the FIRE community, something I've noticed with a lot of people we know who come from different backgrounds and are a little bit more risk averse, even ourselves, is that it helps to have an outside person look at it and tell you, yo, Sammie, you don't need more money for your new car, okay? You need to stop putting money in there. You said you only need like 20 grand. Okay, cool. Now put that money in your investments. This is definitely a good problem to have, but you need to know, you also need to have a stopping point. You can't just save money infinitely. Again, like my blob of money savings. That's not bad, but you can be very smart with your money in other ways if you're investing it in, say, like an index fund or something along those lines. So be intentional, pick a number, have a certain amount you put into it every month. And then when you hit that goal, you can close off that account and move on to the next one.
I also make the goal the title name of the account. Like my account will be called New Car $15,000. So that way I can just look at the account and I see the name and I see how much is in the account and I don't have to do really much thinking at all to see whether I'm going over the top.
I love that, Sammie. And if you look at Ramit's article that we're referencing, he actually tells you which banks allow you to make these sub-savings accounts. Something else I want to talk about, Sammie, with this is I like to have a money ritual when it comes to organizing money. So you automate your paycheck, so it automatically goes to tax advantage accounts, these different sub-savings accounts. You have your buckets winning. you got these buckets where you can actually take your savings account and separate it into separate sections. Money ritual for me is also about organizing my money. It was something I started doing when I first was getting paid, and I would get my paycheck and I would take, say, $1,000, and anything above that amount, I would just move into my savings account. I would do this every time I got a paycheck, and it was just a way for me to shave off extra money and not be tempted to use it because I was already moving it to my savings account. The crazy thing is, because I was in sales, once a quarter, I would get a pretty big paycheck with my bonus. And so I would still do the same ritual where I would shave off anything that was more than $1,000 and I would put it into my savings account. And so that was a really beautiful way to just be aware of the money that was coming in and have a hand in putting it into a place where I would have it for a rainy day.
I love that, Michelle. I have a similar ritual where on payday, I look in my checking account. If there's anything over $5,000, I'm like, I can go ahead and invest that money. So I just go ahead and invest it. And I check my credit card and make sure that it is paid off.
Yes, exactly, Sammie. And it's funny because my ritual has changed because now I don't make tons of money over $1,000 and I'm not getting these fat bonuses. And for about 2 years, I was living solely off my savings. So I had that actually in a separate account. And usually a week, let's say, before I would need to pay off my credit card, I would look at my credit card amount. I would look at all of my spending. And then I would go into my second account with a better APY and transfer the right amount of money into my first account so that I could pay it off. And this may not be the most efficient way to pay off my bills, but for me, having my money organized and separated into this is my credit card account and this is my savings account, this is the money I'm living off of now. This isn't just money that's sitting around, nothing's happening. It helped me stay aware of how much I was spending every month and how much I was pulling out of my savings. And so that gave me a big peace of mind because it wasn't like I was scrambling 3 months into my sabbatical, like, oh my gosh, where's my money going? Am I spending too much? I knew I always have an idea of how much money I have in my savings.
Takeaways.
Takeaway number 1, automate your money. Before that paycheck even hits, let it split.
That was good.
Let some of that money go into your tax-advantaged accounts, and then the rest, don't just put it all in one checking account. Let it go into savings accounts and checkings accounts so that it's all separated and organized before you even try to touch it.
Takeaway number 2, you can actually separate your accounts, like your savings accounts, into sub-savings accounts, or as we like to call it, buckets.
Buckets.
So I would say, put your money in buckets and say, good job.
And takeaway number 3, set up money rituals. Don't guess when you're going to check your accounts or move money from your investments or pay your credit card. Use the same day every month. We like to use our paydays.
Yes. And the thing about money organization is that it might seem like a little technical thing, like, hey, let me set my money up and it can go to all of these different places. Cool. But here's the thing. I had so much value for this when I was about to lose my job. I had a couple weeks left and I finally pulled out a spreadsheet and I started to calculate what's in my 401k, what's in my investments, what's in my company stock, my savings. And I hadn't thought that much about preparing for this moment. It never occurred to me at that point that I would be taking a sabbatical or that I would even need to think about leaving my job without another job. And it blew me away how much money I had saved up. That sounds silly almost, but I was actually running the numbers. I calculated my net worth, and that's when I looked at how long that would last me. And even at spending like $2,000 a month, I could last 10 years, which I knew that my expenses could go up or down depending on my living situation. But that was so comforting to know. I looked at my 401k and I was like, holy crap. all this money I've been saving in my 20s that I wasn't even thinking about, it's compounded like crazy over the last 6 years. The market was on a tear. I couldn't have predicted that. And so I ended up being in a really good position to take time off, literally because I just organized my money up front. I had some money going to my 401k. I had money going into company stocks. I had money going into my savings. And I accidentally set myself up for success. And that's what we want to do for you too. Like, it seems like a small thing day one, but 5 years down the line, you might be surprised at how much money you've actually saved and how that money has compounded over time.
I remember when Michelle told me that she has enough money to last her at least a decade. And I thought to myself, you know what? This girl is never going to go back to work. And she even has a mug today that says, "Imagine having a boss again."
I like to stay inspired. I will link to the mug if you want one too.
So my recommendation to y'all is, if you don't have your money organized right now, book a day of PTO. They're going to pay you to organize your money. Book a day of PTO, maybe for like 2 or 3 weeks out, and then take that day, organize your money, get your sub-savings accounts going, call HR. One day today that will save you so much money, and you literally won't even have to think about it. It'll be the best, most valuable day off that you ever take.
Exactly. So let us know if you do this, if you have any ideas about organizing your money. And also, you know what? Also keep tracking your spending if you've been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Sammie, we'll get you back on.
I will one day be back on that because I do love it.
Community time.
Before we say goodbye, it's our community time. And I think the big announcement, Sammie, is that we're going to move to Crawfordsville, Indiana.
Y'all may not know, but there are towns that will pay you to move there.
We didn't know.
We didn't know, and this wasn't one of them. Shocker!
We are living in this town, this small town, this small
we need to move
town.
here.
I think there's this website, makemymove.com. It's a lot of Midwest, but other like college towns, like pretty legit places
They
compared
have
to where we live.
Muncie, Indiana, which is an actual town.
I'm sure.
Like, they probably have a Trader Joe's.
Well, they were like, oh, well, you can use our co-working space. We're like, you have a co-working space?
Yeah. This is already a fancy town.
Our co-working space is Starbucks, and you know how we feel about Starbucks rejecting us during the apocalypse.
Yes.
They did it.
They always shut down if there's a crisis because they do not want everybody going in there for free electricity.
But the drive-thru is open, so you can like get a latte, but you can't like use their Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
MakeMyMove.com. You can go. And then Sammie and I, we started to think, you know what? Why limit ourselves to one town?
Yes. We could make a whole career out of this. This podcast is going to completely change to just be about us moving to these remote towns that will pay you to live there and share our experience.
So true. We can get it on YouTube. And then it's so funny because it's like, oh, you can go like, you will have like dinner with the mayor. I'm like, okay, mayor, I need a boyfriend. Like,
we know nothing about the mayor. It could be female. Yeah.
That's true. Female, girlfriend, whatever. I don't want to make any assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, apparently you need to have a job where
Michelle
you work
was
remote.
ruled out.
And you're ruled out too. You have to be able to move and work remotely. So what are we going to do? My question is, if you're making $50,000 a year, you have a full-time job, why are you moving to these random cities?
I don't know.
I do not know.
Because you're cheap. I was like, you know what? I was plotting my move. I was plotting my escape from work. I was like, I want to move somewhere where I can build relationships and I can be by the ocean and I can go to hot yoga. Then I find about these little towns in Indiana that will pay you to move there. And I'm like, wait, I would love to do that, but I'm cheap. So I'm going to move to a town where they're going to pay me to live there.
Literally, no. $5,000 to move there. This town specifically gives you health insurance.
Wow.
But apparently they're not trying to be Silicon Valley like HP in the garage. They're trying to be Silicon Valley like Steve Jobs is moving here now. Like that, you know what? I'm sorry. That's too classy for me. I don't even want to be a part of that madness, okay?
Do you think our podcast would count as a job?
You have to make a certain amount of money.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, no, I have a job, okay?
That's true.
It's just that they have these like restrictions. I think if they let us move there, we would then make that money. That's the real thing that they're missing. Ambitious young people who don't have money with their entrepreneurial ventures yet.
I think that's what they're afraid of. But maybe one of you listeners has a job that can be remote and you want to get paid to move somewhere. And this applies to you. If it does, let us know how that goes.
We can have you on our podcast.
Oh, yes.
We'll
have
follow
a whole
you.
Series.
Turns out also you can't just you have to be new to Indiana. So we couldn't just move to different cities within Indiana.
Oh.
But we can move to Iowa. And then West Virginia.
And Italy.
Okay, you're just making stuff up.
No, I'm not, actually.
Why didn't we start with Italy?
That's a good point. Anyway, we're not doing this because apparently we're not qualified.
Thank you for nothing. Shout outs today. Genuine thank you to our listeners. One, Erica of the MeBat.
I have to say a special thank you to Erica because she heard that I am going to get my toxic thyroid removed. Hate to call it that, but that's what it is. And she just had her thyroid removed and she had a bunch of tips for me, which, to be honest, I did not think about any of this. So I was super grateful for the advice, like getting wedge pillows. I got them. They are actually excellent. Michelle has been using them.
I've been sleeping on them because I've been sick and it's been excellent for my cough.
She also told me about how she had to eat soft foods for a week, which I actually didn't think about. And then now I prepared recipes that my mom can make because she's going to come down and help me.
Thanks, Mom.
So that I won't just be eating sugary foods all day. And if any of you know any recommendations on Netflix shows, I don't usually participate in visual media, but because I won't really be able to do anything else, I may be watching visual media. So if there's a Netflix show, particularly nonfiction, because I'm not a big fiction person, or a book that you recommend, please hit me up in the emails because I need some entertainment for when I'm sick.
Actually, we've already planned to watch How to Get Rich by Ramit Sethi.
Oh yeah, that's already on my list. So we will for sure be watching that.
We should just do a whole podcast review. Would you like that? Let us know.
Maybe one of those reaction videos.
We yell at the television when we watch these kind of things. What was the Paula Pant documentary with the personal finance? Oh, we had so much fun.
God, we had so much fun. That was
Mr.
really
Money
good. That was a really
Mustache.
good documentary as well.
We'll get the title and drop it in the show notes. Other shout outs, the episode with Nick Ray. Oh my gosh, you guys loved it.
And we loved it too.
We loved it. We had so much fun. Nick Ray is just such a fun person. He's very organized. Things that both of us love, fun and organized. If you can't tell by our money organization episode.
We had a lot of listeners who liked the episode, including Stephanie, Jess, and Alicia.
Yes, a lot of people remembered him from Museum Hack.
Oh, wow.
His first company, yeah.
I had a lot of my fellow PA friends actually hit me up. And I thought it was so funny that there was a trend of PAs loving this book because I feel like we're organized people who like to have fun. This 2-hour cocktail handbook was perfect for them. And I will say in PA school, we had the best parties. I remember me and my friend Sarah hosted a Clue-themed birthday party one year, and it was the best.
Yes, I love that, Sammie. We knew. We have a very, listen, you are all very organized. You all are very smart, intelligent, and you love having a good time. We know you, okay?
We know you.
And so
because you're like us.
Because you're like us. And we knew that this book was going to be a hit. So thank you so much for all those comments. We love them. Make sure if you do throw a party, you reach out to Nick. And if you want to show us some more love, buildawithlyspirit.com. That's where you can find our show notes for every single episode. You can actually leave comments now on our website. You can respond to our emails if you sign up and subscribe. So that will be in the description of this podcast, which will lead to our website, which has even more info on all of this wonderful, juicy stuff.
And most importantly, be sure to join us next time as we put down the rulebook and we rethink the status quo.